I think that we will kick it off now, and I'll start by saying welcome to everyone attending the webinar today. Happy to see so many joining in, and today we're going to be talking about a subject that many of you have been working with or going to work with, ESG reporting transformation. So I am Martin Bjorheim. I'm from Lobster. I'm the customer success manager in the Nordics. And together with me today, I have a guest, Anders Søborg. And he's going to be introducing a little bit about the ESG reporting transformation. But before that, Anders, if you want to put a couple of words on yourself.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you, Martin, for inviting me to this webinar around the CSRD and some of the reporting challenges many companies are experiencing right now. My name is Anders Søborg. I've been working with non-financial reporting, compliance, and parts of corporate social responsibilities for the last 20 years, and recently started my own business after being a partner in two Big Four companies where we solely focus on sustainability or CSRD reporting. Thank you, Martin.
Well, perfect. So just a short information for everybody attending is that questions coming along the way can be put in a chat. We'll take it at the end of the webinar. At some point in the midways of this webinar, we will have a short 3-poll questionnaire for you guys out there. Hope you will join. And then I'll go through the agenda now, so you know what is going to happen today. So before that, I'll just take off my camera so everything is more visual for you guys to see, and I'm not taking space. So let's start by saying that Anders will shortly after this start the introduction of the ESG and the CSRD, touching upon data requirements, navigating the reporting challenges. And I'll be showing a concept building Pro. Lobster Pro is a portal we'll build about ESG, so you can see that as well. And then we have the question at the end of the day. So that's it for now, and I'll give it to you, Anders, to talk about ESG.
Thank you, Martin. Just before we jump into the slides, let me just maybe touch upon what I see and experience and have seen. If you look at sustainability and the European Corporate Responsibility Reporting Directive, CSRD, bigger clients or companies have, over the last couple of years, really started to focus on how they comply with the new disclosure requirements. A few years ago, or actually following the regulations came into place, the bigger companies started. And what we see right now in the market is that more and more are impacted, both the ones that are to report and include more ESG reporting into the annual report, but also smaller and medium-sized companies who are impacted or affected because their clients are requiring more and more data. And I think what we're moving towards is probably it's becoming a prerequisite or, so to say, a license to operate within certain industries. And as I see it, the reporting requirements will only increase, not only if you are to report as a really big company, but also as a medium-sized company. That's definitely a trend I see, and that's basically what Evolve Consulting is supporting, both big clients but also medium-sized. It's about making, I guess, a framework and a toolbox which is relevant and pragmatic. And some of the elements we will touch upon today, hopefully allowing you to, I guess, on a desktop basis, assess which of these building blocks do you have in place, and where is it I potentially would need to consider either myself or someone in my organization if we should do something differently. It's a rather complex directive which touches among several parts of the business. it's not only sustainability, it touches upon functions and leaders within everything from HR, procurement / supply chain, finance, um, compliance, and others. And of course, the operations in your organization, which now potentially, at least depending on your ambition level, would have to do something new to either comply with the external requirements and become audit ready, or on the other hand, be able to actually report to your clients. If you're heavily dependent, as some industries are, on your supply chain, one industry such as the textile industry, that's definitely the case. Then, of course, it's not about your own data. It's about how you get appropriate data of the right quality from your partners in the supply chain and get that to the business and to your clients. We will touch upon those dimensions today, and then later on, Martin will also show which of those data requirements could actually be covered by Lobster. So let's start by introducing just the CSRD. The Corporate Social Sustainability or Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, CSRD, is becoming a buzzword. It's basically taking good practice in terms of the elements really big companies would have when it comes to ESG, and it's been put into a directive. That directive then has been, I guess, elaborated on in what is called ESRS, European Sustainability Reporting Standards. So while the directive in itself is not that long, well, actually it is rather long, when you then go to the standards, and within the standards, you have unfolded basically the directive, which leaves you with several really big hundreds or more potential requirements or reporting information that either you will need because you are regulated, and thereby you need to report on this in your annual really big as a strategic partner. What's also interesting is, of course, that the European regulation requires mandatory limited assurance, and here we're talking about external audit, really big, where sustainability reports, well, A, they need to be included in the annual report, and secondly, external audit needs to review whether the information is right. So that would go not only for the companies, it will also go for information coming from their strategic partners in their supply chain. And this is quite, I guess, a change from where we are today, and will have ripple impacts on most organizations, and not only in Europe, of course, because companies are using partnerships outside across the world. It's new, and external audit companies are still learning these days, but I'm sure we'll see this demand for quality ESG data increase tremendously. It's basically built, the CSRD directive, to make sure that investors and other stakeholders for your business can trust that the information around your sustainability and your footprint is actually true. So the intent is there, and now the requirement for reporting has been set in 2023. That also means that from a reporting and compliance point of view, it's a huge gap in most organizations. And what is key is, of course, to prepare to align with these reporting standards. So let's move on. So if you look at data from the CSRD, as I touched upon, to the reporting standards, the CSRD, well, it's not something you probably would read in the afternoon, but just a summary, it includes, as you can see to the right here, a number of boxes. There are some general standards, and then within environment, social, and governance, you have specific requirements. Within each of those, you have disclosure requirements, and that sums in total to 82. So 82 doesn't seem like a large number. In total, if you were to think of that, that would seem reasonable. However, if you then go to the reporting standards, it's actually more than 1,000 lines. Now, that's probably not relevant for everyone, and not really within the standard based on a materiality assessment, which you could say is a sort of a risk assessment. Each company then have to assess what's important for me. And based on that, they will then get to a point where they know which of these more than 1,000 line items, and yes, it is a line in actually Excel. If you Google ESS, that is relevant for you. Of course, if you are a medium-sized company where you have a number of big clients within different industries, you might see a challenge in they would have different requirements for you to report in. Luckily, 80% of what you'll face is probably the same. Let's move on further down into data. So how do you then get to know basically what is relevant for me? Well, disregard whether you are to comply with the reporting directive and thereby you have to include it in your annual report, or if you are required from your customers, it makes sense to do a prioritization to figure out which of these elements is relevant for me. In the directive, there's a requirement to do a double materiality assessment, and there's detailed steps in terms of what needs to be included in terms of internal and external stakeholders that should be sounded. It's quite a heavy work, and for some companies that actually takes more than half a year. In a pragmatic way, it will take you 2.5 months, especially if you are a medium-sized company. If you're not required to report in accordance to the directive, but you have clients requiring it still makes sense, perhaps not to do a full double materiality assessment, but then to do a risk assessment, so you can argue to your clients what is relevant for you, and thereby don't necessarily have to collect data which doesn't make sense for your business versus your client's business. So using the risk assessment or double materiality might be handy for you, disregard whether you are falling into the category of being to report or not. When you have that, you basically have a double materiality assessment or risk assessment, which points to all the lines in standards. And then you kind of can do a gap assessment and figure out what do I need to report on, and what do I already have? What do I have within my own business? What do I have or need to have within my supply chain when it comes to sustainability data? What is a natural next step if you know what you need to do and what you don't have? You basically build the compliance roadmap. Now, in large organization, it's not unusual that this actually does require them to set aside more than 10,000 hours, excluding investments in IT and technology, just to build the procedures, to build the compliance information they need to comply with what they should be doing. I'm saying a lot to comply with. You actually have the option not to comply. Unfortunately, if you are a company that has to comply with CSRD, then you have to explain in your annual report why you don't comply and what your plans are. Of course, if you are required to report to one of your bigger clients and strategic partners, it's difficult if they represent a big proportion of your revenue to explain to them why you cannot deliver the data they want. And then lastly, it's about, as with everything else, to start implementing. Here it's important, as I said initially, to remember that this is a cross-functional reporting and compliance transformation. It's not one team. It's not the sustainability team. It's not the finance team. It does and will require HR to find social related information, both within the organization and potentially within the supply chain around the condition, the working condition for staff in your supply chain, and so on and so forth. It does require IT to make sure the systems you are using or not using are set up appropriately so no one can change or alter the data. It does require finance or someone else to do controlling and checks. And it does require technology, unless you will have a really expensive and heavy cost of gathering all this information. Now, when you've gone through these, at least the initial step 1 and 2, as a large organization with multiple countries and entities, you most likely will end up with around 350 to 600 disclosure requirements. Some of them might be easy, but some of them might actually drive that you need to change the way you're working with sustainability and data within your company. Medium-sized company, my view, and also based on our experience, is around 100 to 150. And this is primarily because then you would cover most of the information related to what your big clients will ask for initially. And that's probably what you've seen. They're focused on CO2 and maybe some working conditions in the supply chain, but that will rapidly expand and accelerate within the next 6 to 18 months. So let's move on. So what are the building blocks? And apologies for all the elements in here, but if you have to really build something that is audit ready, and audit ready could be from your external audit, but it could absolutely also be from your clients. If you haven't already experienced it, you will experience different types of functions from your clients asking you for details around ESG reporting, even evidence of the, I guess, the source data, both within your company, but also in the supply chain. This is one way of illustrating it, and I'm sure you have seen others. But basically, you have the directive at the top, which is driving what do you need to report on. Then you have the double materiality assessment. And then actually, as I described before, then it unfolds. And then you have all the elements you need to actually set up to have robust data. You need governance in terms of who does what. You need a code of conduct. That's something most companies has. There are new requirements in terms of who has been trained in this, which need to be documented. Probably not the biggest ask and most difficult thing, but it's an element, and it's a building block within future or actually present CSRD reporting. You need risk management because you need to evidence that your reporting is accurate, and thereby you need to look at what are the reporting risks and what are the controls. When I'm saying controls is as you will see later, who reviews what comes in, so it's not just flowing into something you report in your annual report or report to your clients without actually checking it. That doesn't mean that it's a central team that checks everything. It might be someone within HR, supply chain, finance, or even in operation, or within your supply chain that evidences how is this checked. But it's a very, very key building block to make sure that the data you're looking at and communicating to your key stakeholders, that is actually of the right quality. ESG policy, it's a fundamental that stipulates or should stipulate how are you working with sustainability and what are the rules and the focus areas. And then, of course, an annual cycle, nothing magical about that. Then that is basically just saying who does what over the year. So you then don't end up in a situation where everything has to be done at the last minute. I don't think any of you would end up in that case because of your clients will ask you on an ongoing basis anyway. Below that, then that's basically your engine room for sustainability reporting procedures and KPIs. You need to measure progress, not only for yourself, but your clients would also ask for that most likely. Data models. If you need to collect adequate data, you need to model how is that flowing through your organization and even from your supply chain. How do you consolidate? How do you gather? You need manuals, whether you call them ESG or financial manuals. You need manuals to basically say, how do I work with this within my business? And lastly, you need, I guess, risk and controls, as is how you operationalize your risk management policy, as described before. With that, you can basically, so to say, improve or turn on or expand your ESG reporting within E, S, or G, depending on what you have either decided yourself because you have gone through the step model described, or what your clients or other key stakeholders are required. But doing this without technology within some of the areas would be both heavy and extremely costly. So from a transformation point of view, it makes sense to think in technology early and pick the areas where you have a lot of activities within whatever you need to collect. So let's move on to how do you then navigate reporting challenges. So what's the typical needs versus technology components? Well, if you boil it down, it's not that different than with anything else when it comes to reporting. Where most companies are mature is within financials. So what do you need? If we start with that, you need to have a cockpit. You need to visualize where you are, both in terms of your sustainability transformation. So are you reducing your carbon footprint? Are you improving the work life in your supply chain? And so on and so forth. You need to track your action plan. That's PMO track. But you also need to track your compliance. And you basically need to track that, as is kind of illustrated in a very simple dashboard here, down to the line items, because you need to know that what you're tracking actually links back into the specific requirements in whatever directive we are talking about. And that's quite evident. And the companies that have not done that often fail, both when their client is inspecting them or auditing them, or when the external audit will start or have been looking at whether their compliance is appropriate. You need to capture data. Sustainability data is vastly decentralized and immature. So you need somehow to capture it in a platform or in Excel, which some still uses. And then you have technology already. You might have a learning and development system and you need to track training hours. You might have an HR system and you need to track gender pay gap and other HR things. So you probably also need integration from other systems instead of replicating efforts to comply with external or reporting requirements. And lastly, you need documentation of the I guess the data around your reporting requirements. So if you have to report on water consumption or electricity or whatever, you need the evidence collected and stored centrally. So either your clients or external audit or whoever else might be interested or requiring it, they can find it. But you also need to somehow document all the policies and procedures which links into the CSRD. The CSRD, about 85% of it is actually compliance requirements, whereas only the last 15% is actual data points which you have to collect through your organization and from your supply chain. So if you have these reporting needs, obviously, then you have some technology needs. It's very simple, this overview, but I thought it served the purpose of today. You need some sort of BI, some dashboard performance management setup. You need reporting, consolidation, and estimation. You won't have data for everything. You don't need data for everything. You might say that 80% of my business is in these countries or these business units, and for the rest, I just do an estimation. That's absolutely fine. You just need somewhere where you can do that and where you can also document how you have done that. Coming back to the reporting, data capturing, that's absolutely evident that you have technology for that. Integration from other systems, well, it will come and it is coming, and a lot of organizations are working with that. I think most, though, are focusing on just getting data they don't have and getting it off and out of Excel sheets and emails. It takes too much time and it's not trustworthy when it comes to the information in there. I and Evolve have done a lot of reviews of quality of companies' data. And if you build a reporting manual and send it out to some of your colleagues in the world, you would most likely find that they haven't read the 50, 15 or 80 pages or whatever you built, and thereby the data is incorrect. So you need smart reporting, which is intuitive and easy, And then, of course, lastly, you need to gather the review somewhere, who have reviewed this, and also you need to gather the compliance information. What do you get out of that? You basically, again, tying back to the technology and reporting means you get dashboards, you get trackers, both in terms of performance, in terms of reduction or improvement, or the opposite, actually. If your business is growing, you need compliance dashboard. You need consolidation for estimation, so you can give either to your annual report or to clients or other stakeholders, give them something which is trustworthy, and then below that, you need the data capturing mechanism. Integration, absolutely. First priority, probably not in all cases. And remember, if you are collecting data from your vendors, then without technology, the organization I know that has been trying to do that through manual data collection, no one wants that job. So if technology can support it, and it can, I would heavily recommend to put that into your plan. Get it implemented, or get it approved and get it implemented. Lastly, you need the documentation. So this was kind of a shift and quick intro to the CSRD, unfolding it into not only just an overall directives, but actually down to data points. And then again, coming back to what are the needs and what should you consider in terms of building up potentially a CSRD reporting framework, the house illustration, and then lastly, with doing it without technology would be hard and more costly than what you probably will pay for smart and simple technology. I'll hand over now to Martin and hope this gave you a good idea of what is coming if you haven't seen it already.
Thank you so much, Anders, for all of this very nice presentation here. I'm thinking that we should, as I said in the beginning, start these 3 short questions. It's yes or no. I hope that you attendees will try to join up. So I'll launch 3 questions. It's yes or no again, and we'll only let it be a minute per question, and then I'll start talking a little bit about solutions for what Anders has been talking about. So let's kick it off. You should be seeing something in front of your screen. And there you have the question and a yes or no. And we'll leave it hanging again, so you have time to read and think about the answer. And then I know that somebody's watching how many people are clicking in, and then when we have everybody, we'll switch to the next one. And let's get the last question in a moment. And we'll I think we should be almost done now. Tobias, can you please confirm?
There's one last question, then.
Last question, yes?
Yes, now, something else.
Perfect. So, Tobias, you just tell me when people have put in their answers, and we can... Now. Perfect.
Yeah.
Good.
Let's. Yeah.
Then I'll quickly again say thank you to Anders for the nice introduction. Again, as Anders is talking a lot about, it's really important to have some technology to support this journey. And what we've done with our tool, Lobster Pro, is to try and shape up a model of how you could actually use Lobster Pro as a portal to this ESG, CSRD. So this is a 12 step how to report in water consumption through the supply chain. And the case here is that first step is for a employee, could also be a external person from the supply chain logging in. They will have a simple, easy view of where they can click and where they need to go. And this is, of course, tailored for the different, there could be managers and other people attending and looking into this during this process. But the first thing that this user is doing is logging in and putting a task number on, choosing a ES or G, and subcategories will appear from what you choose to what it is that you want to describe and document in this flow. So this user is typing in that they are going to be uploading in terms of consumption, maybe of water, that they can document that they have used since last XYZ. So what is going to happen is that we can upload directly as external or internal, again, documentation and proof of what we're typing in. And it's also possible to save this document in this version. So we have a version 1. You could go up and have 12 versions before you get approval. But it's nice to have and important to have the whole versions locked in so you can see where you started and how you got to success. You can also review yourself before a user, again here, submits for review what is being uploaded and sent through to the next person to review it. And again, when everything is perfectly fine, you press ready for review. This means that somebody, again, these roles are defined, will get a message that something needs to be looked upon. The other way around, we could also imagine in a case where, somebody in the supply chain gets a message that they need to do something. This is automated. And the manager now, in this case, needs to log in and look at this specific review. He goes in and sees something is ready for review. He can see exactly what is typed in. He can approve, again, maybe not shown here, but he would see the documentation. He can see that picture. So he can approve, this is perfectly fine. We can save this, or he can go in and reject. This meaning that it goes back to the user. He's not, this person, satisfied with the documentation. It needs to be better. And we could even have more stakeholders in over this rejection or approval. So when it's rejected, of course, it returns. Somebody needs to go in and have a look and get this better documentation and upload and start version 2. So this is how, again, we start the processes, how we can push people into a portal where they specifically, governance-wise, can see what they need to see and approve what they need to approve or document what they need to do. So it's just a very short, simple way of showing that inside of this tool, Lobster Pro, we can support these different issues that you face with ESG and CSRD. And again, to move on, why this tool is due to the Lobster company. So if everybody doesn't really know who we are a German-founded company. We have over 2,000 customers. And what we do have is these products, Lobster Data, which is where we consolidate data. This is where we can collect data from different systems and data points, do the consolidation. And this is where we have Lobster Pro in the front end to build these interfaces, the portal, the process models, to upload the documentation you need to provide or the manual you need to provide to the supply chain person that needs to document. So all of this is combined by these two products. Of course, we also have Logistic Cloud where you can connect and get your CO2 imprint from carriers, airlines, and whatnot. And then, of course, also PIM is something that we also have. All of these can be important in a business, so it's all about ESG. And of course, many customers using our products for many different aspects to scale up on. But looking at the whole concept that Anders touched upon, having this connectivity and being able to trust the data that's going around, putting in the conditions, the rules, the variables for the data that you're picking up or sending around, Lobster Data takes care of that. And then picking up data or inserting or editing data is on the Lobster Pro for the processing. So building the interfaces as this example shows, certifying that this is a scalable platform that you can build more solutions on top of, and of course seeing a visual impact on it, seeing, as Anders pointed out, that you're growing and hitting the targets, so also possible to input into these portals. So what we're sort of basically aiming at here is saying that all these different things that you need to measure on and report on, internal and external, is a Lobster Data capture and a process, view, and probe. So all of this together, again, knowing that you need to be flexible. Lobster Data is flexible in terms of thinking that you might be connecting to your supply chain. They might not be that big, so they might not be that integrated or digital. So with the Lobster Data, you can easily understand and be flexible in receiving or sending different types of documents. But again, a long range of connectivity possibilities. So you have the MQTT, and you can build APIs, and you can connect to machines if you want, or ERP systems. So this is the whole concept of, having a full-on ESG portal, connecting to the external data points, consolidating in databases, picking up the systems internally and the data in there, providing this in a full view. So you have your workflows and you have your approvals, effectively save time and cost on it, connecting CO2 imprint. As I touched upon in the second slide before, we also have a chance of taking your graphical views, your BI views, and putting it in and alerting and notifying you if you're missing something. If something is not correct in the reporting, it's built in automatically to tell you what you need to do, how you need to do, and who needs to do it. So this is, again, the technology that can support you on this journey. And I will actually now let the slides finish off, and now let the chat begin. So if anybody have any questions for Anders or for me, feel free to go in the chat now and type some questions in, and we will find out an answer. So I will try to shortly put on my camera again. Anders, I don't know if you can aim. Let's try now. We can look at the questions.
Oh, here's one, and thank you. There's a question: is one system enough, or wouldn't you need multiple systems to cover the, I guess, data and compliance aspect? You probably need multiple. If you look at the reporting needs, which I touched upon, and then Martin talked to from a Lobster perspective, a lot of companies are going out and looking at separate ESG consolidation system, risk and control system, and reporting system. I think they were looking at the Lobster platform and what Martin just presented. You have a lot of it in there in a quite user-friendly platform. So I think my answer back to that is be careful about building or buying too many platforms because you need to integrate them. And who wants data reporting in one system and then all the relevant documentation in another system? That makes actually bringing it together, much more complex and time consuming for you and potentially your external audit or your clients. So think carefully and around the needs. You can use the slide which we've shared today kind of as a checklist when you're considering technology, but there's a step before that, of course, that is zooming in on what's really, really important. Thank you for the question.
Maybe just to say, as Anders touched upon, we will send it out, the presentation, after the webinar is done, and we will link you guys to the video and of course some contact information if you want to talk more about ESG with Anders or us. But let's see, is there anyone? I can't see the chat, Anders, but I guess that you can, because I'm sharing my screen.
There's one more. Yeah, that's actually if you were to use Lobster, how fast could it be set up if you're a medium-sized company?
Depending on the full scope, so saying that you need to be 80% ready, at least, I would say that it's about 3-4 months in total, but then you would have everything ready. So that's the time period we're looking at.
Yeah, there were a few around the same topic. I think that covers everything. So Martin, if you're okay, maybe let me sum up. Well, the CSRD, you got probably not the first intro to it. We try to unfold it for those of you who haven't been working with it, which I can see a few familiar names on the list, which you have. And then probably what may be new for you is the building blocks. And then you obviously, with Lobster, you potentially have a technology partner, which covers quite a few of the technology needs from a CSRD point of view. I don't have anything else. Thank you for attending from my side, and thank you, Martin and Lobster, for inviting me.
Thank you so much for joining in. Very exciting to hear about, and so everybody knows here, Anders and I will have a follow-up on these ESG topics. We'll try to plan another webinar just before the summer. So yeah, again, we'll invite you. Hopefully you'll join up for the second round. Thank you everyone for joining, and have a great day.